Welcome to Pink Side. I tease my girlfriend. Now I'm the one in makeup. I never expected a little teasing to turn into something that would completely upend my world. My name's Alex, 22, and like most guys my age, I had a playful side, but nothing could have prepared me for the whirlwind that would follow a harmless joke at Emma's expense. I've always been curious about crossdressing, but it was something I kept locked away, a secret fluttering at the edge of my mind. I liked the idea, the thrill, the escape, but it had always been abstract, a distant fantasy. Never something that would consume me. Emma was the kind of girlfriend who could light up a room with her laughter, but she was also fiercely confident in her style and makeup skills. I liked teasing her about the hours she spent in front of her vanity, joking about how I could do it better. "Watch this," I would say, smirking, sometimes picking up her brushes or lipstick as a challenge. She'd roll her eyes, laugh, and sometimes flick my arm or mock me, but nothing serious ever came of it, or so I thought. We lived in a cozy apartment downtown, a place filled with the little chaos of everyday life. The living room had a soft beige couch, a coffee table stacked with magazines, and a vanity against the wall, brimming with Emma's carefully arranged makeup. That vanity had become the center of my teasing, the battleground of our playful arguments about who could pull off a look better. I never imagined it would become the stage for my own transformation. By day, I worked at a local cafe, serving coffee and pastries to a mix of regulars and strangers. I liked my job, the simple rhythm of pouring lattes, smiling at customers, chatting about life's little absurdities. It gave me structure and a sense of identity, but also a secret I wasn't ready to expose. I wasn't a crossdresser in public. That part of me was hidden, private, delicate. But Emma had unknowingly lit a fuse. That Thursday evening, the teasing went a step too far, or maybe just far enough. I had made a particularly cheeky comment about her eyeliner, offering to show her how it's really done. She laughed at first, rolling her eyes, but then her tone shifted into a mischievous challenge. "Oh, you think you can? Maybe you should try it yourself and see if you survive a full look." I laughed, dismissing it as a joke, but I knew she meant it in that playful, dangerous way she had when she wanted to catch me off guard. Later, while she stepped into the kitchen, I found myself staring at her makeup, almost involuntarily. A thrill ran through me, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and something else I couldn't quite name. I picked up a brush hesitantly, my fingers trembling slightly, and began experimenting. I started with subtle touches, concealer here, a stroke of eyeliner there, just to see what it felt like. It was like stepping into another world, one where every movement, every detail, mattered. I could feel my heart racing, each small success fueling an unexpected thrill. By the time Emma returned, I had almost completed a subtle, tentative look. She stopped in the doorway, her mouth open slightly, eyes wide. There was a pause, a heartbeat suspended between laughter and shock, before she burst out laughing, not mockingly, but with a sharp, playful edge that made my stomach twist. "You actually did it," she said, tilting her head. "You're kind of good at this." I flushed, caught between embarrassment and exhilaration. The teasing that had started as harmless fun had somehow flipped. Now I was the one standing there, fragile under her amused gaze, my reflection staring back at me with a face I barely recognized, but secretly craved to see again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment, the way the brush had felt in my hand, the way my reflection had seemed almost alive. It was more than curiosity now. It was desire, excitement, and a fear of the thrill I knew I'd never admit aloud. The seed had been planted, and I knew I couldn't unsee the door that had been opened. By the next morning, the apartment felt different. Every glance at the vanity, every brushstroke on Emma's shelves, felt like a call I couldn't ignore. I was already imagining trying it again, refining the look, exploring this new version of myself in private. The teasing had flipped, but the game had only just begun. Emma had unknowingly pushed me into a world I wasn't ready to leave, and for the first time, I didn't want to. By the next day, I was fully consumed by the thrill. My morning routine no longer felt complete without a glance at Emma's vanity. The brush, the foundation, the blush. They weren't just tools. They were keys unlocking a side of me I hadn't dared to explore. The secret wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was a compulsion, a craving for the transformation. Every touch of makeup brought a wave of conflicting emotions. I felt powerful, seductive, and vulnerable all at once. The simple act of drawing eyeliner along my lashes sent shivers down my spine. Blending shadow across my eyelids made me acutely aware of how fragile my dual identity was. Alex, the boy, was still there, but he was receding, replaced by a version I didn't fully understand yet, but wanted to embrace. The dress I had tried the day before called to me again. Sliding it over my shoulders, I felt the soft fabric cling in ways that made me blush. Standing in front of the mirror, I began to notice subtleties I had missed. How the hem fell just right, how my posture changed, how every small detail contributed to the illusion. My reflection was no longer just a reflection, it was a persona, fully alive, observing me as much as I observed it. But with excitement came fear. Emma's playful teasing lingered in my mind. She could walk in at any moment. What if she laughed at me, or worse, exposed me? The suspense became a delicious tension, each sound from the other room triggering a jolt of adrenaline. My heart would pound, palms grow sweaty, as I tried to maintain the perfect posture, the perfect calm. I began experimenting further. Lipstick, blush, mascara, each added layer intensified the transformation, making me feel both beautiful and fragile. I even practiced Emma's poses, the way she tilted her head, the way she moved her hands, mimicking her elegance and charm. The thrill of playing her role in secret was intoxicating, addictive, and a little frightening. Lunch arrived unnoticed. I couldn't stop thinking about the next step. Should I try her heels? Her wig? The idea of fully immersing myself in her identity was irresistible, and the fear of being caught only heightened the thrill. Every sound, Emma in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator, a bird outside, made my pulse quicken. The apartment had become a stage for suspense, with me performing the most dangerous role of all, myself, remade. That evening, Emma returned home earlier than expected. My heart leapt. I froze mid-gesture, mascara wand in hand, standing in front of the mirror. She paused in the doorway, eyes scanning me from head to toe. The air seemed thick, electric, and charged with unspoken understanding. I felt exposed, yet thrillingly alive, caught between fear of judgment and desire for her approval. Instead of mockery, she smiled, a knowing, teasing smile that made my knees weak. "Looks like someone's getting really good at this," she said softly. Panic and exhilaration collided inside me. She knew, but she wasn't angry. She was watching, waiting, testing me. The suspense was intoxicating. That night, I lay awake, replaying every glance, every touch, every moment of near discovery. My obsession had grown. I realized this wasn't a one-time experiment. It had become a part of me, a secret thrill, a dangerous pleasure, and a puzzle of identity I couldn't resist exploring further. I was hooked. The days that followed were a delicate balancing act. I found myself sneaking moments when Emma was out or distracted, each session of transformation becoming bolder than the last. The thrill of playing with identity had grown intoxicating, and I was increasingly willing to flirt with danger. The suspense wasn't just in the act itself, it was in the possibility of being discovered. Every creak of the floorboards, every sudden noise, sent my heart racing. I began exploring more extreme aspects of Emma's wardrobe. Her high heels called to me, and I couldn't resist sliding my feet into them, wobbly at first, then more confident with each careful step. The mirror reflected my evolving posture, my sway, my curves accentuated in ways that made me flush and shiver simultaneously. I felt more alive than ever, yet each step carried the risk of exposure. Makeup became an obsession. I experimented with bolder shades, eyeshadow I would never have dared before, lipstick bright enough to make me feel like a stranger in my own skin. Each stroke deepened the persona, making me feel simultaneously powerful and fragile. I could hear Emma moving in other rooms, or imagine her walking in at any moment, and that possibility sent waves of adrenaline through me. The suspense escalated further when I started leaving small hints of my experiments, a lipstick smudge on the counter, a brush slightly out of place. Emma noticed. Her laughter, soft but teasing, echoed through the apartment. "Looks like someone's enjoying themselves a little too much," she said, watching me closely. My pulse spiked. Did she suspect more than I was willing to admit? The thought was thrilling and terrifying all at once. Even tried mimicking her voice in private, practicing the cadence and inflection, feeling more immersed in her persona with each passing moment. The reflection in the mirror became my confidant and accomplice. Every glance revealed the duality of Alex and the persona I had created, two versions of myself coexisting in a delicate, suspenseful balance. One night, the suspense peaked. Emma had planned a surprise outing and asked me to get ready. I knew she expected me to dress normally, yet the temptation to fully embrace the persona I had been cultivating was overwhelming. I slipped into her dress, applied the makeup meticulously, and even added the heels. The mirror reflected a version of myself I barely recognized, beautiful, confident, yet terrified of discovery. Emma returned unexpectedly early, her eyes widening in shock. I froze, mid-gesture, frozen between fear and exhilaration. She stepped closer, examining me silently. I could feel every heartbeat, every breath, every quiver of nerves. The suspense was unbearable. She didn't laugh. She didn't scold. She simply watched, testing my courage, my secret, and my control. That night, I realized the thrill of risk had overtaken everything else. The danger of being caught, the excitement of transformation, and the addictive pleasure of inhabiting a new persona were intertwined in a way I couldn't resist. Each day, each glance, each touch became a game of suspense, teasing, and self-discovery. By now, my life had become a careful dance between reality and the persona I had created. The more I embraced the makeup, the dresses, and the heels, the more addicted I became to the thrill of transformation. But with excitement came terror. Every noise, every unexpected knock at the door, sent my heart racing as I fought to maintain the secret. One afternoon, while Emma was out running errands, I decided to push the boundaries further. I chose a particularly daring outfit, a fitted dress she often wore for evening outings. Slipping into it, I felt a rush of exhilaration that mingled with fear. The tight fabric clung to my body, accentuating curves I hadn't even realized I had. The heels made every step a challenge, yet the sway they forced into my movement gave me a newfound confidence. Makeup had become second nature. I experimented with bolder eyeliner, dramatic eyeshadow, and deep lipstick. Each stroke was precise, deliberate, almost ritualistic. I stared into the mirror for what felt like hours, observing the transformation in disbelief. My reflection wasn't just Alex anymore. It was a stunning, seductive version of him, one I could hardly believe existed. But the thrill came with constant fear. Every sound in the apartment made me freeze. The distant hum of the elevator, the creak of the floorboards, the faint rattle of the radiator. Each noise made my heart pound. Each shadow seemed like a looming threat. I became hyper-aware of every movement, every detail. The suspense was palpable, like walking a tightrope over an abyss. Emma returned earlier than expected. My heart leapt into my throat. I was standing near the mirror, adjusting my hair, when she quietly entered the room. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe, lingering on details I hadn't even noticed. How the dress fit, how my makeup accentuated my features, how my posture had changed. Instead of anger or mockery, she smirked, an almost imperceptible smile that made my stomach twist. "I see you've been busy," she said, her voice calm but teasing. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet also electrified. She had discovered me, yet she wasn't scolding. She was observing, testing me, and I realized the suspense wasn't just about secrecy, it was about control. The rest of the evening was a careful performance. I moved with calculated grace, careful to avoid any missteps that might reveal my true self beneath the persona. Every glance from Emma, every slight comment, every playful tease intensified the tension. The line between fear and exhilaration blurred, and I found myself addicted to both. By the end of the night, I knew there was no turning back. The thrill of transformation, the suspense of near discovery, and the intoxicating approval from Emma had created a cycle I couldn't escape. I was no longer just teasing. I was living the experience, caught between identities, addicted to the risk, and desperate to explore it further. By this point, I had fully embraced the transformation. My mornings began not with coffee or work preparation, but with makeup, outfits, and a careful study of Emma's style. The persona I had created no longer felt like a game. It felt like an alternate reality I couldn't leave. Each session of crossdressing was a heady mix of exhilaration, fear, and addictive pleasure. I began taking risks I had never imagined. I wandered through the apartment in full attire, practicing poses, expressions, and even gestures that mimicked Emma perfectly. The mirror reflected not Alex, the boy, but someone new, someone confident, alluring, and dangerously vulnerable. The thrill of this dual existence became intoxicating, but the suspense intensified. Emma's reactions had grown more teasing, more perceptive. She would casually comment on my appearance, her voice soft but knowing. "You're really starting to get the hang of it," she said one afternoon, as I adjusted my wig in the mirror. My pulse spiked. Did she suspect how far I had gone? The tension of being caught, or revealed, was a constant undercurrent, making every movement deliberate, every breath measured. The physical sensations had evolved too. The tight dresses, the heels, the makeup, they weren't just external. They affected the way I moved, the way I thought, the way I felt. I swayed with a confidence I never knew I had, each step a reminder of the persona I was inhabiting. And with that confidence came vulnerability. Every misstep, every creak of the floor, every glance from Emma could expose me. One evening, alone in the apartment, I experimented further. I applied a full glam look, complete with bold lipstick and dramatic eyeshadow. I walked around in her highest heels, swaying, practicing poses, examining myself from every angle in the mirror. The suspense reached a fever pitch. I could hear every distant noise, the city outside, the radiator humming, my own heartbeat. Every sound threatened to shatter the illusion I had so carefully created. Emma returned earlier than expected. I froze mid-step, poised like a statue. Her eyes widened for a fraction of a second before she composed herself. "Wow," she whispered, her voice a mixture of amusement and awe. My heart raced. She had seen me in full immersion, yet her reaction was teasing rather than judgmental. The suspense, the thrill of near exposure, and the intoxicating allure of transformation all collided into a heady, almost overwhelming mix of emotions. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized I couldn't go back. The persona, the thrill, the constant edge of suspense had become an inseparable part of me. I was addicted, entranced, and terrified all at once. The build-up was complete. The stakes had been raised, the thrill intensified, and the transformation was no longer just physical, but deeply emotional and psychological. The stage was now set for the climax. The secret was no longer private. The tension had escalated to the point where one small mistake could shatter the delicate balance of my dual existence. The next step promised high stakes, intense suspense, and a confrontation with the reality I had been dancing around for so long. The day began like any other, but the air in the apartment felt heavier, charged with an almost tangible tension. I had been fully immersed in the persona for days now, my every thought revolving around makeup, dresses, and the thrill of inhabiting Emma's world. But today, something felt different, ominous, like the suspense had grown teeth. I was alone, applying mascara with meticulous care, my hands shaking slightly from a mixture of anticipation and fear. The reflection in the mirror stared back at me, confident, alluring, yet hiding the boy I had always been. I practiced the tilt of my head, the sway of my hips, each movement fluid yet calculated, aware that any misstep could be disastrous. Then came the sound, a soft, almost imperceptible knock at the door. My heart leapt into my throat. I froze mid-stroke, the mascara wand suspended in the air like a lifeline. Every nerve in my body screamed, "Be calm, be normal, act like nothing's wrong." But I knew there was no normal here. My secret, my thrill, my obsession, all of it was hanging by a fragile thread. I tiptoed toward the door, heels clicking lightly against the hardwood, each step a calculated risk. Peeking through the peephole, I saw Mr. Daniels, my teacher, standing with a clipboard in hand. My breath caught. He rarely came to my apartment and never unannounced. The suspense tightened like a vice around my chest. "Alex," his voice called softly from the other side. "Are you in?" I hesitated, mind racing. Should I answer? Should I hide? The persona I had been cultivating was fully on display, and yet the fear of exposure made my stomach churn. I opened the door just a crack, trying to appear casual, but my heart was pounding so loudly I feared he could hear it. "Mr. Daniels, what brings you here?" I asked, voice slightly higher than usual, betraying the persona I had been adopting. He stepped inside, clipboard in hand, his eyes scanning the apartment like he already knew something was off. The dress, the heels, the carefully applied makeup, they were all on me, and I could feel the moment of suspense stretching endlessly. "I needed to drop by and discuss your project," he said casually, yet there was a subtle sharpness in his gaze, a flicker of awareness that set my nerves on edge. Every word, every movement felt loaded with potential exposure. I forced a smile, trying to maintain control, but my pulse raced, and my hands trembled. As we sat down, I caught myself adjusting the dress, smoothing the fabric over my hips, conscious of every inch of my appearance. The suspense was unbearable. One wrong glance, one misstep, one slip of my voice, and the secret I had nurtured would be gone. Minutes stretched like hours. Each word he spoke, each note he scribbled on his clipboard, felt like a test of my composure. I was aware of every flutter in my chest, every shift in my weight, every subtle expression on my face. The tension was exquisite, intoxicating, terrifying. Finally, he glanced up and smiled, a small, knowing smile that made my stomach twist. "I see you've been experimenting," he said softly, almost teasing. My heart leapt. Had he seen through everything? The persona, the thrill, the obsession. All of it threatened to unravel in that single moment. I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. The suspense had reached a fever pitch. One tiny misstep could shatter everything. My secret, my thrill, my entire dual existence, exposed. The moment lingered like a held breath. Mr. Daniel's soft, almost teasing remark left me frozen, mascara wand still in hand. I could feel the blood rushing to my face, my heart hammering in my chest. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide the persona I had so carefully cultivated, yet some part of me, the part intoxicated by thrill and risk, wanted to see just how far I could go. Trying something new?" I stammered, my voice slightly higher than normal, betraying the nervous excitement that surged through me. My hands shook subtly as I adjusted the hem of the dress, tugging it down to cover my thighs. He didn't respond immediately. He just observed, his gaze calm but piercing, like he was dissecting every micro-expression on my face. I realized then that the suspense wasn't just about the possibility of being caught, it was about testing limits. How much could I reveal before the illusion shattered? How far could I push this dual life before reality intruded? Every second was a test of courage, every movement a delicate balance between control and exposure. He shifted slightly, clipboard in hand, and leaned closer. "Interesting choice," he murmured, glancing at the makeup, the dress, the carefully positioned heels. His tone wasn't judgmental, it was curious, probing. I felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Had my secret been fully revealed? Or was this a game he was playing, testing me the way I had been testing myself? I tried to maintain composure, adjusting my posture, walking a small circle across the room in the heels, feeling the fabric of the dress cling to me as I moved. The suspense escalated with each step. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the fabric, felt like a heartbeat in time with my own. "You seem very comfortable," he said softly, almost conversationally. The words sent a shiver down my spine. Comfortable? How could he know? How could he see through the layers of makeup, fabric, and persona to the thrill and fear that surged inside me? I swallowed hard, my mind racing. Should I retreat? Should I confess? Or should I continue the performance, testing the boundaries of what I could get away with? The duality of fear and desire was overwhelming. Every glance from him, every subtle movement, heightened the suspense, tightening it around me like a vice. As he continued discussing the project, I moved closer to the mirror, ostensibly checking my hair, but really rehearsing expressions, gestures, and poses that maintained the persona. My reflection and his gaze overlapped in a dizzying, thrilling moment of duality. I was both observer and observed, caught in a tension that was almost unbearable. Then, as he glanced down at his clipboard and muttered something about deadlines, I heard the faintest click, the sound of the apartment door unlocking. My blood ran cold. Emma? Could it be? Panic surged through me as I realized the suspense had reached a critical point. Any second now, the carefully maintained illusion could crumble. I froze mid-step, mascara wand still poised, heels clicking lightly against the floor. The room seemed to hold its breath. Every nerve in my body screamed, every sense sharpened to a painful edge. This was it, the ultimate test of control, composure, and the perilous thrill I had willingly embraced. My body froze as the faint click of the door unlocking echoed through the apartment.
Emma.
My heart leapt, every nerve in my body igniting with a mixture of panic and adrenaline. I was caught in the ultimate suspense, fully dressed in her clothes, makeup perfected, heels clicking lightly against the floor, and now the possibility of her walking in at any moment. Mr. Daniels, unaware of the new danger, continued discussing the project, his voice calm and measured, but I could barely focus. My mind raced through every contingency, every possible escape, every lie I might need to fabricate in an instant. I was paralyzed, yet the thrill of the near discovery sent a shiver down my spine. The door creaked open further. Footsteps. I could hear Emma's presence drawing closer, her familiar scent suddenly overwhelming. I held my breath, frozen mid-step, mascara wand still in hand, praying that neither she nor Mr. Daniels would notice the precarious tableau I had become. Emma peeked into the room, eyes widening almost imperceptibly. "Alex?" she asked softly, voice calm but tinged with curiosity. My pulse surged, and I had to force myself to stay composed. Just checking the project details," I stammered, keeping my voice steady, though it came out slightly higher than usual, betraying my nervousness. My mind raced. How could I explain the dress? The heels? The makeup? Emma's gaze swept over me, lingering on the details I had carefully perfected. The fitted dress, the subtle curves accentuated by the fabric, the delicate sweep of eyeshadow, the careful application of lipstick. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of amusement, curiosity, and something deeper that sent shivers through me. Mr. Daniels glanced at her, oblivious to the tension, then back at his clipboard. "Ah, Emma. Good timing," he said casually, completely unaware of the precarious moment. Emma's eyes, however, stayed on me, sharp and assessing. I had to think fast. Every instinct screamed to retreat, to shed the persona and return to normalcy, but part of me, the part addicted to the thrill and risk, wanted to see how far this could go. I took a cautious step, adjusting the dress and heels, hoping to maintain composure. Emma's lips curved slightly, a teasing smile that made my stomach twist. "Interesting outfit choice," she said softly, her tone light but loaded with unspoken meaning. My pulse spiked. Did she understand? Did she know everything? The suspense was unbearable. Every second stretched, every glance a test, every movement a gamble. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, heightening my senses, sharpening every sound, every shadow, every subtle gesture. I was trapped between desire and fear, between revelation and concealment. Finally, Emma stepped closer, her eyes never leaving mine. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet exhilaratingly alive. The near discovery had escalated the tension to a fever pitch. One misstep, one sudden noise, one shift in her expression, and my secret, my carefully nurtured obsession, could be revealed in an instant. The air in the apartment had transformed into a tight coil of suspense, each second stretching endlessly. Emma's gaze was fixed on me, calm but piercing, while Mr. Daniels remained oblivious, busy with his clipboard. My heart hammered, adrenaline surging through every vein as I struggled to maintain composure in my precarious dual identity. Emma took a slow step closer, her voice soft but carrying an almost teasing edge. "You really committed to this look," she murmured, her eyes scanning every detail of the outfit, the makeup, the heels. My pulse spiked. Did she know more than she let on? Could she sense the thrill, the obsession, the secret I had tried so desperately to contain? I tried to respond casually, my voice steady, but slightly strained. "I thought I'd practice a little," I said, gesturing vaguely toward the mirror. My hands twitched, almost betraying the meticulous persona I had spent hours perfecting. The suspense tightened around me like a vice. Every sound, the distant hum of the radiator, the subtle squeak of the floorboards, Mr. Daniels shifting in his chair, felt magnified, echoing like a drumbeat of impending revelation. My mind raced with contingency plans, lies, excuses, anything that might preserve the fragile balance I had constructed. Emma's eyes softened for a moment, then glinted with mischief. "You're surprisingly convincing," she said. Her words were playful, but the tension in the room made them feel loaded, heavy with unspoken understanding. My chest tightened. The thrill of transformation, the fear of exposure, the addictive suspense, it all collided into a storm of emotion. I took a cautious step back, adjusting the dress and heels with exaggerated care. Each movement was a high-wire act. My reflection in the mirror now felt like a co-conspirator, an accomplice in this dangerous dance. The persona I had created was alive, breathing, and teetering on the edge of discovery. Suddenly, a sharp noise, the clatter of a dropped pen, echoed through the room. I froze, heart leaping, as both Emma and Mr. Daniels looked up. Time seemed to slow. The suspense reached its zenith. Would this tiny accident expose everything? Would the fragile illusion crumble in a single moment? Emma's eyes flicked toward me, lips twitching as if suppressing a smile. "Careful," she whispered, her voice almost conspiratorial. My body relaxed slightly, but the tension remained taut, like a drawn bowstring. The danger was still there, the thrill still intoxicating, but now it was paired with a newfound exhilaration. In that moment, I realized the full scope of what I had become. This wasn't just about makeup, dresses, or heels. It was about power, control, vulnerability, and the intoxicating allure of risk. The suspense had become an addiction, and I was both its prisoner and its willing participant. As Emma stepped back, finally turning her attention to Mr. Daniels, I allowed myself a quiet exhale. The immediate danger had passed, but only for now. The tension still lingered in the air, a reminder that one misstep could undo everything. I had survived this close call, but the stakes were higher than ever. The climax was far from over. The room seemed suspended in time, a fragile bubble of suspense stretched to its limits. Emma had returned my attention only momentarily, but her presence alone amplified every nerve in my body. Mr. Daniels continued talking, oblivious to the heightened tension, leaving me trapped in a world of dual observation and constant danger. I could feel the persona I had nurtured, every curve, every gesture, every shimmer of makeup, now fully alive. It wasn't just a disguise anymore, it was an extension of myself, daring me to risk everything for the thrill of the illusion. My pulse raced, heels clicking softly on the floor as I moved with exaggerated caution, fully aware of every eye on me. Emma's gaze followed my every motion, playful yet perceptive, as if she could sense the full scope of my obsession. "You're really dedicated," she said softly, almost a whisper, her tone laced with amusement and intrigue. My stomach twisted, the tension reaching a breaking point. Every step, every adjustment of the dress, every flick of mascara could reveal me entirely. Suddenly, the unexpected happened. My heel caught the edge of the rug, and I stumbled slightly, barely catching my balance. Time slowed. Mr. Daniels glanced up, confused, while Emma's eyes widened ever so slightly. My heart hammered in my chest, adrenaline surging like wildfire. The risk of exposure had never felt more real. I steadied myself, forcing a laugh, masking the panic clawing at me. "Oops, clumsy me," I muttered, voice higher than usual, trying to maintain the persona's poise. Emma's smirk suggested she knew more than she let on, but said nothing, leaving the suspense to linger like a knife edge over my head. The thrill was intoxicating. I realized that the danger, the fear, the precariousness of my situation, it wasn't something I could abandon. It had become addictive, thrilling, a defining part of my identity. Each heartbeat, each breath, each glance from Emma reminded me that the persona I had created wasn't just a disguise. It was a revelation of who I truly craved to be, even if only in secret. Then, as if testing fate itself, Emma stepped closer again, eyes glinting with playful mischief. "I wonder," she murmured, almost to herself, "how long you can keep this up before it all unravels." My breath caught. Was she teasing, warning, or subtly daring me? The suspense was unbearable, a tightrope stretched over a chasm of potential exposure. I realized I had crossed a threshold. This was no longer a game, a joke, or an experiment. I had become fully entangled in the persona, addicted to the thrill of transformation and the razor-edge suspense of near discovery. And with Emma's knowing gaze upon me, the stakes had never been higher. One slip, one careless movement, and my secret would be exposed. Yet I found myself unable to stop, intoxicated by the peril, craving the adrenaline. The climax reached its peak. The combination of risk, obsession, and identity hung in the air, unresolved but impossibly charged. I stood poised, balancing on the edge of revelation, fully aware that the next moment could either shatter or define everything I had become. The apartment was silent now, save for the faint hum of the radiator and the soft ticking of the wall clock. My heels had stopped clicking, the mascara wand rested idle in my trembling hands, and the carefully constructed persona I had inhabited for hours now felt simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. Every nerve in my body remained alert, each heartbeat a thunderous reminder of the suspense that still gripped me. Emma's gaze lingered, a teasing, knowing smile on her lips, while Mr. Daniels continued scribbling on his clipboard, oblivious to the charged tension in the room. I wanted to breathe, to relax, but I couldn't. The duality of my existence, boy and girl, secret and thrill, fear and desire, was too vivid, too immediate. "What are you thinking?" Emma asked softly, stepping closer. Her voice carried that playful edge that made my stomach twist, a sound both familiar and disarming. I opened my mouth to respond, but froze. Could I explain the obsession, the thrill, the secret life I had immersed myself in? Or would one word shatter the fragile balance? A sudden buzz at the door startled me. The apartment phone. Emma glanced at it, but said nothing. My mind raced. Who could it be? The suspense wrapped around me like a vice. Should I answer it? Pretend it didn't ring? Each choice felt loaded with consequence, each second stretching impossibly long. The mirror reflected me, half girl, half boy, caught in a persona that had grown far beyond a simple experiment. I touched the edge of the dress, feeling the fabric against my fingers, and realized that this transformation was no longer a choice, but an extension of my identity. Yet the fear of discovery remained, a shadow lurking behind every laugh, every glance, every heartbeat. Emma's eyes softened, almost conspiratorial. "You know," she said, voice low, "I think this is only the beginning." The words sent a shiver down my spine. Did she understand how far this went? Did she know how much I craved the thrill, even as it terrified me? I glanced at Mr. Daniels, who looked up momentarily, unaware of the tension, and then back down at his notes. The room seemed suspended, caught between revelation and concealment, between desire and fear. Every instinct screamed for caution, yet another part of me, the part addicted to the suspense, the transformation, the thrill, urged me to push forward, to embrace the persona fully, no matter the risk. And then, the sound came, the unmistakable click of keys at the door. Someone entering. My breath caught. My pulse raced. The suspense had reached its apex. Emma's playful smile widened, but I could see the edge of seriousness in her eyes. My mind raced. Should I flee? Confess? Or simply freeze and hope the secret remains hidden? One step, one movement, one glance could change everything. The door handle turned slowly and my body tensed. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, two halves of a single being, each poised on the edge of exposure. And then the sound stopped. The world held its breath with me. Everything hung in the balance, unresolved. Who had come through the door? Would they see me like this? Would Emma playfully reveal my secret, or protect me? The suspense lingered, a knot in my chest, impossible to unravel. And there I stood, caught between identities, between fear and exhilaration, fully immersed in a persona I could no longer control. The moment remained unresolved, a cliffhanger of adrenaline, desire, and danger, leaving the audience desperate to know what would happen next.